So I myself personally, and I've even discussed it with you, have known that we were in the potential for a six-figure buyout because that was an institutional coin. It was never meant for the public, and it was always meant to be something that caused a generational wealth opportunity for the average person at pennies on the dollar.
Absolutely. Now, I do believe 100,000, potentially even $200,000 buyout is in the cards because the boys and girls upstairs, whoever's left, which is, I mean, they're not going to be called banks anymore. They're going to be called, what is it? Financial service centers.
Service centers. That's
Okay.
right.
They are going to need that token to be stable at $1 million for starters all day long. So they'll give us maybe 200,000, for example. They still made an $800,000 profit. They'll easily buy it from us once it's worth that kind of money. And they need it to be worth that kind of money so that they can move mountains, financially speaking. Correct? Mm-hmm. So
yes, that's right.
Those numbers are within line. But listen, if they offer me $562,000, Lion, I'm not going to turn it down. And supposedly got 90 days, right? They're going to give us like 90 days to turn it all in.
So yeah, they will give us a period of time, and I think I've discussed this with you. It's a one-time deal. If you end up with it after the fact, then basically it is an institutional coin. It'll be valueless to you.
But before we get started, folks, make sure you hit the pause button. Okay, go down below. There's a Rumble link. Go over to Rumble and follow us over there. QFS1776.com is without question the holy grail of what's to come. Okay, t-shirts, you got to get yourself decorated. This way people will ask you, what is XRP? What is the quantum financial system? What is this? What is that? And you send them where? To QFS1776.com, where they need to immerse themselves, because we're going to burn down this system down to the ground. And out of the ashes will rise the phoenix. There'll be nothing to go back to. Believe me when I tell you that. Unified TV will take over Netflix. We're bringing in the next genre of movie producers and storytellers and actors and actresses. And we're telling the story of how the world is going to be on earth as it is in heaven. Jasara Nasara is coming. Don't make no mistake about it. Gold and silver right down below. Promo code Mel Carmine. Make sure you use the promo code. Almost $8 billion in sales. We're direct to like a bunch of mints. We are the ones that can get you the gold and silver directly to your door, okay, at the cheapest price. Don't even waste your time looking for a cheaper price. It doesn't exist. Also, our Telegram groups down below. If you want to learn what's coming and you're sort of a little scared, I understand. Believe me, I was there too at one point. Our Patriots are literally waiting for you in the room. And if you need more than $10,000 worth of XRP or $1 million worth of XRP, you come see me. Send me an email at QFS1776@gmail, and we'll get you as much as you want. Well, good afternoon, folks. And we got the one and only Captain Kyle in the house. He's been here for a third time, and he'll be here probably another 300 times, I can assure you, because we got the machines that can circumvent time, and we can live to be 300 years old now and beyond. And by that time, there'll be plenty of versions of medical beds coming, so we're going to look good doing it. Captain Kyle, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot of stuff going on. You got a huge Telegram channel. A lot of people are following you. You are definitely an expert when it comes to the QFS, the quantum financial system. You're definitely an expert when it comes to XLM, XDC, XRP, the dinars, the ZIMs, all of it. And I'm about to pull the trigger on some dinars and some dongs. And I was wondering, can I buy the used ones, the ones that are circulated? I understand that they'll still revalue at the same dollar amount, but they cost a lot less to buy. And I think that would be a great way to start the show off for the audience as well.
They would be, if you can make sure that they're actually valid, because there's a lot of stuff that's going around that's fake, right? And that's the whole thing, is making sure that whatever they are, they're still valid. And if they're in circulation, that means that they've been in the current in country, they've been being used. And so as long as they're the real thing, then yes, you're correct.
Perfect. So I know that you could probably buy them for about 75, 80% less than what you would buy the new denominations for, correct?
I think that's about par, somewhere around in that ballpark.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are we, man? You know, like there's so much going on. I mean, you know, this movie just keeps on going. There's like this sick part of me that doesn't want the movie to end because I'm having such a great time. But then I say, you know what? I wouldn't mind being wealthy. Let's get this party started already. I'll take my podcast down to maybe 2 podcasts a week instead of doing 2 per day. Where are we as far as this thing actually manifesting?
So, in my opinion, I think that we are real close to events that are going to lead us into that manifestation that we're looking for, right? It's got to be driven off of events. And when you start to look at the things that even the mainstream media has talked about with the financial system, the way the financial system is falling apart, and the way that Brex is actually backstopping it and everything that it's doing. From my understanding, there's about 70% of the countries are already on and listed with Brex, whether they formally announced it or not. It may be even higher than that. The one that's the most important, basically, is Saudi Arabia because of the petrodollar. But if you look at the events that have led up to where we are right now, they've already said how many times in the news, basically, not the news that you're seeing over here in the United States, but news that you can pick up from India and in the Middle East and around that region, that they have already shown the interest in it. They've already shown the interest in buying and selling oil on the yen for with China. And so there's a lot of things that they've actually done that have, if you just put all the pieces together, it's already showing that they're already in and that they have been in for some time now. But when they make that formal announcement, that's the key thing. They've said, we're interested, we're looking into it, we're doing all these things. They're foreshadowing what's to come and the fall of the petrodollar and the agreements that Saudi Arabia made with Russia back in, I think it was either August or September of 21, was that very thing that brought us into the petrodollar in the 70s. That basically that same agreement Russia made. They had it all in the newspapers and people didn't pay any attention to it whatsoever. And so, when you start to put all the pieces together, everything's lining up for it to basically happen. But the old fiat system has to crash under its own weight. All of the systems that are out there by the cabal have to show the people their true nature, their true intent. And then when they destroy themselves from their own corrupt ways, then that's the only time that you can actually begin to rebuild off of that. And so you look at Nasara and Jasara, those are recovery acts. Those are recovery acts. You have to be recovering from something. And right now we are not recovering. We're in a bad situation, but we haven't recovered from the financial crash. We haven't. Those are the things that it's actually designed for specifically, and to rebuild. This is what we're going to be doing.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a lot of news. I've been watching a lot of Dr. Kia Pruitt. She's awesome. She goes and reads you some articles, current events that are happening right now in Iraq and the countries that are going to get revalued, like Vietnam and Venezuela and so on, without putting dates on it. I'm just so tired of everybody saying, yeah, it's going to happen next Wednesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. It's ridiculous. I say
it's frustrating.
Yeah, it
it's
really
frustrating
is.
And it's misleading to people, and it builds false hope, and then it lets people down. And we know it's going to happen, but just let it freaking happen.
Exactly. See, what my problem is that there's so many people banking on getting information out there from people without mentioning people's names, because I don't want to embarrass anybody. And they're so banked on, yes, it's going to happen next Tuesday, that they're not even willing to go to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a problem.
And they want to be the first with the news. And
Yeah.
I want to be the one that put it out there. And it's like, no, you should be understanding that you have a lot of people's lives that you're actually speaking into. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. And you need to take that seriously and at least lead them in a credible direction. And yes, give them hope, because of people without hope perish. That's what the word says specifically. And so they need hope. They need understanding of these events that are taking place, but don't pull the rug out of them over and over and over again by saying, this is the day, it's all lining up for this week. And I have heard from a good contact. And no, you ain't heard from nobody. I was going to use some other word, but I'm not. You haven't heard from nobody, because the people that are in charge of this are not letting that information out, period, to anyone, period, until it actually happens, period.
That's correct. And when it comes, I always say it's going to come like a thief in the night when you least expect it. So while you wait, stay in positive cash flow. We got some links down below. You guys can go and get involved with one of our nutritional companies, or you can get involved with the iTerahertz wand. That it's a device that helps the body heal the body, that it provides the atmosphere so that the body knows how to heal itself. And we just did an incredible podcast with Dr. Renice, a chiropractor. Mind-blowing information. If you use that thing, for example, and somebody has no more knee pain, and they had knee pain for 29 years, and the knee pain disappears because the device, gives you the atmosphere so that the knee can heal itself, you might be liable to tell somebody about it. You get what I call lubricated lips, and you make some extra cash flow, and you can buy some extra XRP, some extra XLM, some extra XDC, and so on. Do you know who XRP Lion is, by the way?
I do not just
Okay.
off the top of my head.
Okay, XRP Lion, he claims, and he sounds very credible, very smart man. Him and I building a relationship. We're becoming really good friends. But he is actually in contact with Source. He says he talks to God every single day, just about, and he's got supposedly the skinny. And I said to him when I did a podcast with him and Dr. Kia Pruitt, I said, you're either going to be proven to be the biggest fool in the world, or everybody who is invested in XRP XLM is going to have a statue of you on their front lawn. Because he's talking about $562,000 buyout for XRP.
So I myself personally, and I've even discussed it with you, have known that we were in the potential for a six-figure buyout, because that was an institutional coin. It was never meant for the public, and it was always meant to be something that caused a generational wealth opportunity for the average person at pennies on the dollar.
Absolutely. Now, I do believe $100,000, potentially even $200,000 buyout is in the cards, because the boys and girls upstairs, whoever's left, they're not going to be called banks anymore. They're going to be called financial service centers.
Service centers. That's okay? Right.
They are going to need that token to be stable at $1 million for starters all day long. So they'll give us maybe 200,000, for example. They still made an $800,000 profit. They'll easily buy it from us once it's worth that kind of money, and they need it to be worth that kind of money so that they can move mountains, financially speaking. Correct? Mm-hmm. So
yes, that's right.
Those numbers are within line. But listen, if they offer me $562,000, Lion, I'm not going to turn it down. And supposedly right. Got 90 days, right? They're going to give us like 90 days to turn it all in.
So yeah, they will give us a period of time. And I think I've discussed this with you. It's a one-time deal. If you end up with it after the fact, then basically it is an institutional coin and it'll be valueless to you. Now, if you want to just keep them a few for yourself as something to hold on to as like, a souvenir thing, then yes. But as far as a valued asset, it won't be, because the whole purpose of it is to get those back into the institutions where they are supposed to be, for the QFS and for the institutional transfer of monies from institution to institution in the QFS system.
Yeah. Now the crash, in my opinion, let's see, from you and I are on the same page on this one, Captain, but the crash has to happen under Joe. It has to.
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
It
cannot happen under 45.
All of it does.
Yeah.
Everything that we're witnessing right now has to take place under that Manchurian candidate that is basically a puppet that's been put in their office to bring all of this to pass, so that we as a society can learn, grow, and recover from the intent that they had, basically what were planning for each and every one of us with no backstop other than their unconditional control, or you're gone.
Right. Now, when this crash happens, I know that the stock market is going to be the first one to go. That's a fact. That's a given. The XRP, do you see the XRP going down to like 0.00002 of a penny?
I think that all of it is going to go down initially. And then over a period of recovery, whether it's, I've heard some people say 3 days, I've heard, 5 days, whatever. And then it bounces back to its, stability of wherever it's going to start from and then take off. That's where they get some of the moon shots and so on and so forth. But in my understanding is that when everything crashes, but the problem with what happens is that it's going to happen so quick, you're not going to have time to do anything with anything. Your stocks, anything that you potentially have, you're not going to be able to do anything with. Whether it happens like, when, let's just take for an example, the futures that took place on the oil back several years ago, whenever it went to negative $34 a barrel. That was taking place over the weekend when basically you couldn't buy or sell anything at that point. And so if you were holding all that, then you just lost out completely, right? And so is that going to be a possibility where we have a crash on a Monday or a crash after Friday when it happens, after the stock market closes? Or it is Sunday night happening over in the, the Asian markets before it comes across to the United States. And by the time trading opens up, everything is gone, right? And so that is more of a reality probability than anything else, because you're not going to be able to do anything. You're just going to be able to watch everything crash. And I think at that point, there's going to be a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of misinformation that's out there, but also that when we go through this, I believe that that's when we're going to potentially lose the internet accessibility. So you're not going to be able to communicate either. And that's where I think that we're going to go through major issues, one right after another, and potentially leading us right into the EBS system, because the EBS system, or EAS, or however you want to say it now, is designed for one thing: to basically communicate to the public, to allow them to understand what's going on, what's expected of them, and how things are going to move forward at that point, right? And so everybody's always talking about it potentially happening now or whenever. Does that line up with anything that's going on? It doesn't until those events actually take place, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I plan on parking a couple of dollars with my brokers, okay, over in Europe. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because in the event that it does go down a point and quadruple 0 and a 2, or even a triple 0 and a 2, I'm going to tell the broker, pull the trigger. Okay, automatically. You don't have to call me, don't have to email me, don't do nothing. Just pull the trigger. The money's there, pull the trigger and make a buy. Because they got, billions of this stuff. As a matter of fact, you know what happened? I'll make you laugh. I had a guy that came to me, and this guy was good. Let me tell you, this guy had his jargon, his pitch down to a science. He had my broker believing that this guy's worth $6 billion. That was the number he threw out there. And he said, Mel, I'm going to buy $70 million worth of XRP through your broker. I'm going to pull the trigger tomorrow. True story. My brokers were ready to go. I had to ask the question at this point, because I never got a big whale like that ever on a hook. We got a couple of nice whales in the $1 million range, couple $1 million range, et cetera, but never, $70 million purchase of XRP in one shot. And he was talking about doing 500 million. The guy was as phony as a $2 bill. Okay. He was brainwashed himself, believing that when the Zims and the dinars and all of that reevaluates, he's going to buy. That's what he was thinking of doing. But he doesn't realize when that happens, XRP is going to be a couple $100 each minimum, right? Yeah. The lawsuit, the Boogie Theater lawsuit goes away. They, announced the whole thing and we won the lawsuit. XRP.
Yeah, the one that's already over with.
Right, exactly. So anyway, so I had to ask the question to my broker. I said, okay, I got to ask you the question. Sit down. Are you the guys that when somebody's buying, $125 million worth of XRP, you guys are the guys that the transactions go through? There is nobody else. Am I correct? And they said, Mel, yes. Okay. So
Right.
with that said, because this guy came to me and he had me fooled, and I'm not easily fooled. Okay. And he had my brokers fooled, and they're not easily fooled. The reality is that they had to sort of take their pants off and let me know that, yeah, they are the ones that the big boys shop at.
Right.
Pretty wild, So the fact is that, I don't know if it's going to go down to 0.00002, but if it does, I would love to figure out how to sell everything and just go all in. I'm either going to be a hero or a zero,
So so the only problem that I see with this is I think that that is an expectation that they are fully aware of, that people that are paying attention enough could potentially do, right? And so that's why I think that possibility of that actually happening, where there is an open market anywhere for that to happen, I just don't see that happening, right? I think it's going to be a closed system when it's actually taking place. And then basically at that point, we're going to see it without the ability to make any transactions, right? Because of the stability that would bring, right? I think that I know that this has been a forethought that's gone across the quantum AI, and this possibility is going to be nipped. It's now, I don't think that it's a problem with trying to set yourself up for that probability to actually happen. That's a good thing. Why not, right? You can't hurt yourself by doing that. But I just don't see it going down that way, because there's a lot of potentiality for the incredible windfall that is not intended for that time period, right? It's really supposed to be that we prepared ourselves ahead of time. That's why it's been so important that we are prepared, not only just physically, mentally, spiritually, and all of these aspects that we've been, talking about for so long, but be prepared ahead of time. And then whenever it does happen, then I think there's going to be no controlling, no input, no anything that people can have any kind of fluctuation to what's already happened, right? And so that's where I think that a lot of people have a misunderstanding, is that most of these events and most of these issues have already happened. We are only being allowed after the fact to actually partake in that information the way that they choose to disseminate it out to the public. This is the way that it has been for some time now. And so if that's the case, then you're talking about a box that's already closed, and we're just presenting it to the public at that point, and for that reactionary purpose. And I think that's more probable than not, but it doesn't hurt to potentially line yourself up for that possibility, right?
Sure. And I know that the XRP Army 1.0 can't stop talking about the central bank digital currencies, and they can't stop talking about the Kabuki Theater lawsuit, which is nothing more than to slow the whole thing down so that they could roll out Nasara Jasara. That thing's been done a long, long time ago. This is just, it's a horse and pony show, if you will.
But it is a show for the public for a specific reaction, so that the MK Ultra Mind process can be broken, and broken in an organic manner.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
Yeah. The central bank digital currency, as far as I'm concerned, Captain, with all due respect. Okay. And I've challenged anybody, any of you guys out there, XRP Army 1.0, 1.50, whatever. If you want to challenge me, I'm going to give you an open invitation. You contact me at QFS1776 at Gmail. I'll put you on my show, and you can make your argument about the central bank digital currency. But I always say, and I'm going to go to my grave saying this when I'm, 2,999 years old, why in the world do I need to use a central bank digital currency? And I believe wholeheartedly that this is the struggle. Okay. If I can pay you direct, peer to peer, which these assets work perfectly well, peer to peer, do I need a middleman, another bridge on the blockchain to bring my money through to give it to you if I can pay you directly for the chair you're sitting in or those beautiful cowboy hats?
You are correct. The situation that the CBDCs are is that through the transitional period from the banks, basically, as the system that most of the public is familiar with. Very few people actually truly know about the things that are going on, right? And that is a comfortable, let me say the word correctly, comfortable ability of their mindset of the public that they will be able to recognize and understand the transition, because a lot of people are really afraid of going to digital currency. They think it's all a manipulation of the government and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And they do not understand that there's not only going to be that, but there's also going to be actual tangible currency that, grandma, if she doesn't want to use any of that, she can still have, cash in her pocket. She can, reach down and pull out her pocket and she can go, look, I got money, and not have to worry about, being a part of whatever's going forward. Even though that's going to be so simplistic, it's going to be much easier than we do business today, and it's going to be streamlined in a manner in which basically we are already comfortable in doing, like online banking, so on and so forth. But the problem with that is that there's so many corruptible manners within the internet and the way that it operates right now, and that they've got so many assets that you have to go through that specific bank, right? We can't just, me and you, do straight business, right? And that will be something that once we move forward, then we will be able to do that. I will be able to, unload a specific amount of, whether it be XLM or whatever, and say, send you directly. And then you've got the instantaneous receipt of that, and through smart contracts and so on and so forth, then the deal's done. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. We don't need to speak to anybody else, right? But that's a process that we'll go through over the next couple of years, right? And that level of business transaction. So that's a whole part of basically transitioning out of the brick and mortar bank system that are in place today and will be there for a short period of time, whether it be a few years. My personal opinion is about 4 to 5 years. And then we'll begin to transition completely away from the, community bank, so to speak, and then just have, like we were talking about earlier, the financial centers, which is something that I think Bank One or Capital One or whatever was putting out there, where they were saying, look, this is a whole new system. It's more like going to your coffee shop, and so, and not a normal banking situation, because it's not going to be that way anymore, right? And so we're going to go through stages of transition of what and how we do this process. It's not going to be all of a sudden everybody's going to be completely understanding everything that's the probabilities and the possibilities of our future banking aspects, right? Our financial aspects, and how that is attainable to us. There's so many people that are doing so much information right now on educating people about, the quantum financial system and these possibilities that are coming out and how to get on board with that. And we have to think about, there's, so many individuals right now that don't even have a bank account that are going to get into this and get into these systems and have to learn about all these systems. And it's going to be a simple transition for people like you and I and the people we talk to, and educate on that system. But you got to think about the guy that's across the street that is never done he doesn't even get in the stock market. He's got his 401k, his work does all that for him. He doesn't do anything. He's got no understanding whatsoever about it. Balances his checks, his financial situation. That's about it, right? That's going to be all new. Even if it's somebody that's, fairly smart, they're going to have to go through this process of learning how everything is going to completely change in the way that individuals now control their complete finances and control the way that they do business. We won't need that middleman. We won't need all those people in between, which is going to eliminate a lot of the hassles, eliminate a lot of the service charges and fees. And it also eliminates, like right now, when we do a basic banking transaction, that goes through Swift, and Swift goes directly through the central bank, the IRS, and every single one of those transactions is recorded. That will all go away. And so there's going to be a very big change in absolutely everything when it all comes out and starts to move forward. But always remember, it's going to be a process of this step to this step to this step. And yeah, you may be able to go 3 or 4 steps ahead just because of where we're at right now and understanding the possibilities that that's going to give you and I, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about the prices dropping down to 1955, 60 levels. Because I was told different stories from different people. They're saying, well, because you're going to have so much money, it's equivalent to having prices drop. No, I don't believe that, because not everybody's going to have the money, because there's, like you said, there's a lot of people that are scared to even look at the quantum financial system. They are terrified of this whole entire situation, even though we've made it so simple at QFS1776.com with the most simplistic videos on planet Earth in a chronological order that anybody could watch. And within 3 days, you'll have a good idea of what's coming. And this is not difficult to understand. So the price is dropping down in the 1950s, 1960s. Explain that to us, please.
All right. So let's just put it into perspective that you have, like, say, $1, and that $1 is only valued at 16 cents or maybe even 15 cents. But then all of a sudden, that dollar now becomes an actual real dollar, and the buying power of that real dollar. That real dollar going forward is not going to be expected to purchase something that was basically set up in a price situation, whether it be whatever, however it was monetarily funded as far as to get its price affixed to it, right? That was given to it based off of the devaluation of the dollar itself. And so if we go back to the 1950s, that was the time period before the devaluation of the dollar actually truly started to take off. So at that point, the dollar was fairly close to what a dollar was valued at. And so if you look at something now and say, okay, back then I could buy, just, I'm just using it for an example, a house for, $8,000, $10,000. Okay. Well, let's put that into perspective. If I took that at 15 cents and then added it to that $10,000, what would be a house valued at for a regular normal house today? Exactly the house market that we're looking at today, when before it was completely inflated by, crazy town. It's starting to completely come back the way was prior to that, just because of their scam on trying to inflate the market as much as possible, knowing that the crash was coming, knowing that Evergrande actually completely was bankrupt. And that was like a bankruptcy in China that made the entire, financial scam of 2008. That was like kindergarten school compared to what actually took place with Evergrande and its bankruptcy. But are we seeing those effects out to the public yet? No, we're not, because everything is basically being falsely inflated and held up, propped up, because all it is just ones and zeros in the computer systems, and they're just fraudulently just holding this up, just dragging it along. But in reality, it's going to crash on itself. And when it does, the market is just going to fall out from underneath itself. But getting back to the situation, if we look at taking that 15-cent value back to an actual dollar, people are going to drive the marketplace back to those prices really quickly, because I'm not going to pay, and this is how people are going to be perceived in that situation. I'm not going to pay an actual real dollar for something you're telling me is worth 15 cents on the dollar. Not going to happen. Why? Because I don't need you anymore. I don't need any of you anymore because we're financially well to do. We're not going to be in a situation where we are in debt slavery anymore. And everything is going to change on the way that people actually view the financial system going forward. And so that market, it may not switch overnight, but the people are going to drive the market to that very quickly based off its actual true value and what that dollar is going to buy it for.
Absolutely. Ripple, I still contend Ripple is going to be the new world bank. The SEC wants the 50 billion that's an escrow because this is a gangster move. Because our government, folks, is mafia. It's government gangsters on steroids. They want that 50 billion because they know that 50 billion, once it's revalued at $1 million each, it's a lot of money. And they don't want that money leaving the United States of America. And they're not allowed to leave the United States of America. And they don't want to leave the United States of America. You know why? Because this United States, when it's all said and done, will still be the superpower. Make no mistake about it. Okay? So do you think that there's a possibility that Ripple was working out a deal with the Treasury and whatever's left of the IRS and the Federal Reserve to become the new world bank, and they're going to sort of partner up somehow, some way? Because that's what I'm seeing, because there's nobody home down in Washington, D.C. You know that because the videos are on your Telegram group as much as they're on my Telegram group.
So the way that I kind of see that taking place is they're going to be an institution that basically is going to be a service provider. Okay. And being a service provider of cross-border currency delivery systems, they're going to be basically in the catbird seat as a connecting measure for all of these banking systems from government to country, right? And because of that, they're going to be partnership with them, and not so much as like a bank itself, but as a financial clearinghouse. And basically, if you're going to do business, you got to do business through us in the system that we've put in place so that it makes all of the quantum system already function, correct? And so basically the Treasury Department, that's the people's money. That's the way it's always supposed to have been before it was hijacked in, 1871 and so on and so forth with a corporation, 1913. And, you can do the math from there on out and how it was all corrupted, right? And bringing the Federal Reserve in. The IRS was developed after that. They're both corporations out of Puerto Rico. They have absolutely nothing to do with our federal government. And basically, that was the IRS is a collection house for the Federal Reserve. It's not a part of the United States, never has been part of the United States. And so when the Federal Reserve was actually brought into the Treasury Department back in May of 2020 under Donald Trump's executive orders, and the way that they put that through the emergency declaration, then the IRS went right along with them because they're a part of the Federal Reserve. So all of that has been brought into the Treasury Department. And so I think that what the IRS is going to be a part of going forward is the tax collection base for the flat tax, right? And then business tax. But as far as all of the other tax and all of the other craziness that's been put out there as far as it goes, that will no longer exist. And it will be brought completely to the public in a completely transparent way, that it is now a part of the people's house, which is the Treasury Department, and will now be something that is a beneficiary to the people themselves and what their purpose is, instead of it being like the IRS is the evil, entity out there is trying to get each one of us. In all reality, it'll be actually working for us in our behalf. And that's the way government was supposed to run to begin with.
Is that maybe the 87,000 agents that are hired or have been hired to work on our behalf instead of against us?
They have, it's not actually, I think that number was kind of blown out of proportion, but in reality, they were brought in and not the ones you see on the videos and the kooky, like that was all for show. That was a
Right.
retarded display of what they were trying to do. But in reality, those are officers. Those officers are going to be out there to collect and to go after those individuals that were a part of the cabal, a part of the deep state, and that they are gun carrying agents of the Republic under the Treasury Department. And now those people are going to be held accountable for their crimes. And so those people are actually working for us. And that's what people don't really realize. And it's not that amount of number. That number was blown out of proportion on purpose to scare the hell out of people and the citizens and so on and so forth. But those individuals are going to be working for us to make sure that those black hats are completely taken care of, all of them.
Yeah, and Puerto Rico is exactly correct. That's exactly where the IRS was registered. It's a Puerto Rican corporation. It has nothing to do with the United States of America, and none of the dollars you guys are paying goes to fix your bridges or your schools or your roads or none of that stuff. Okay,
Not
it
one
goes to the
dime.
monarchy. It goes to the monarchy in the UK, and it goes to the Vatican. Okay, go do your homework. This is the kind of stuff they don't teach you in school. That's why you're wasting your time sending your kids to school because they're learning nothing.
Yes. And it was intentional. They took civics and they took all of these educational plans out of the school systems on purpose so that people would eventually get to the point where they didn't understand government. They didn't understand how these systems work. And it's easy to, manipulate those systems to a public that does not understand how they work. And people are like, somebody else will take care of that. They're not that corrupt. Yeah, they're a little corrupt, but it's okay. They're doing the best for us. They have that kind of mindset. But when they find out that it was all intentional to keep them in the dark and be able to basically steal their shorts right off of them and put them into a debt slavery that they would never recover from, then that's going to change how people begin to view this going forward. And that's what is a part of what's going on right now. People are learning about the Constitution. They're learning about Congress. They're learning about things that they have never really learned on how those systems work. And it's all for show right now. It is a teaching lesson, the School of Hard Knocks for the public so that they can learn these processes that they were not educated growing up on.
Absolutely. The 17th letter in the alphabet drops little hints. And you see, when I said to my wife, I'm going to connect all of this stuff together, and she thought I was completely nuts. To some extent, she still thinks I'm crazy. Okay. And I can tell you that I've been proven right, and I'll continue to be proven right. The reality is the 17th letter in the alphabet says to watch the water. Ripple has to do with water. Swell conference, the swell, a rising tide, a low tide, water. Okay. What does XRP do? We solved the liquidity crisis. Gee, I think that's water.
Yeah. And, there's all of the banking terms are based off of maritime law. The currency, the banks are what? They are the sides of the currency, all the flow of money go through banks. I mean, there's so many parts of the way that the definitions of these words are used. They are all based upon maritime law and the law of the sea, which has always been part of the Crown Corporation, which is no longer and is defunct.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about the Iraqi dinar. Where can people get their best bang for their buck? Is it the Iraqi dinar here Some people saying it's the dongs. I hear that people are saying it's the Zims. What is your opinion as to where Mel Carmine could go get the best bang for his buck? Hopefully today, tomorrow, I'm going to pull the trigger on some of that paper. What would you advise me to do?
So, the dong has a pretty sizable growth that they've talked about. The Zim as well, but they're also potentially attaching Zim to humanitarian projects and so to speak, because the Zim itself was never actually supposed to be a part of actual real currency. But we're going to find out that I think that you're going to be safest and your largest growth and what you can actually take home through the dinar and the dong. And then myself personally, I always hedge my bets into silver, actual assets. And I don't buy now, don't kid yourself. I do buy coins and I do buy things like I show right here. It's like, it's a 50 cal, 10 gram freaking silver, right? This is something that I don't care if it was become, worth, $50,000 a gram, it would never sell. This is something that is something I will always keep. It's a keepsake for me, personally, right? But when I'm using silver as an investment, I buy just blanks. I buy the silver for what it's actually silver for, right? I buy it in bars and I get the highest quality, which, 99.9 quality silver from a good clearinghouse and no expenses on it, meaning it wasn't printed with this and it wasn't printed with that, because all of that's an extra cost. That doesn't mean a hill of beans when it comes to the end value of what something is valued at, right? And so if you can buy them in 1 ounce blanks, then buy 1 ounce blanks. If you can buy them in 5 ounce bars with nothing on them, do it. And then if you can get 10 ounce, so we're talking about something that's $20 that has a potentiality of having a growth of $10,000, $15,000 in value. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I do know that this property in the new technologies is the most used commodity that there is. And it is a finite commodity, not like gold, not like a lot of other commodities that are out there. It is a finite material. So that value has been so suppressed by the manipulation of the paper market that people are going to, when it first revalues, and I think this is what they're going to bank on, this is what they're really banking on, is that when it first values and goes to say 500 or say $1,500 a gram, a lot of people are going to unload it because they're going to think, oh my God, look what it just did. I got it for 20 and now it's worth 1,500. And then, 6 months later, it may be 5,000. And 10 months after that, or 2 years after that, it could be 10,000. And they're going to be sitting there thinking to yourself, why didn't I just hold on to it? Right. I've warned people that it's something that they're going to go through stages on. If you want to, dump a little bit in the beginning when it's worth a lot, a pretty good sizable amount. Yeah. But keep majority of it, because that's where you're really going to get your gain over the next several years after it revalues, because now the demand on it is where the market is really going to drive that value up to crazy town prices. It really is.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a lot of positive news coming out of Iraq that points to the direction that the reevaluation has to happen. We cannot allow these countries to live in the Stone Age because their money's worthless. It's going to be backed by gold. There's going to be a revaluation. When, nobody knows. We can just buy it, hold, and wait.
That's
redemption
right.
centers. Let's talk about redemption centers. What do you know about the redemption centers and how they're going to actually physically work?
So from my understanding, and I do have some sources that are directly related to those, contacts that are in the regional of those that are multi-state centers. Okay. Those centers are going to be based upon the banks that are your tier one bank that has already been approved for it. They've already been trained for it. They've already been set up for it. They're already prepared for this specific event to take place. So when it happens, it's going to be a real quick wham bam thank you ma'am type situation. It's not going to be drawn out. It's going to be, you're going to take your paper in, you're going to take your information in whenever you get where you're going to go to, and they're not going to be at the banks, even though the banks themselves are what are actually putting them on. Their people have already been trained for it. They've already been prepared for it. I have individuals that I have been in contact with that have seen pallets of the new rainbow currency, um, completely stacked up, ready to be distributed. All right. And so when that happens, you're not going to come in contact with anybody other than the individuals that you are actually doing your transaction with. Those individuals are going to be very limited in nature, for your eyes only, their eyes only, and that is it. And basically, a lot of the individuals at that point will get their quantum devices because of their RV situation. And basically, they're going to be given advice on what their next steps should be in the process on where we're going with the crash, with their families, with friends, so on and so forth, and how they should proceed forward with, getting their trust. There's going to be trusts that are going to be available for them to set themselves up with, diversify in those natures, but they're all going to have quantum language in them. So things that are good today will not be good after the revaluation. I have trusts that have protected me and my family and our finances. They're only going to be good up until the day that we go through this. On the other side, they're not going to mean a hill of beans because they're not going to have quantum language in it. They're going to have old language in it. And so that's why nobody, unless they have already been trained in it, and there are, but they're not available to the public yet because we're not operating in the quantum system yet for the public. And so be very cautious about people that are saying, I want to help you get this, and I want you to sign up to this and go and you can do that.
And it's going to cost you $699 because I know how to do it. See, that's my argument. It's like if we went,
they don't know shit.
Exactly.
They don't.
Exactly. My argument is this: if we had already gone through like 2 wealth transfer reevaluations, yes, you could say that you're an expert. But we're going through the very first one. To call yourself an expert and want to charge people $699, shame on you. That's a scam, guys. Okay.
So they have no quantum language training whatsoever on the way that it has to be set up for the way the new financial system is going to be in place. Do you know the new tax records and the new tax standards? How do you know any of this? No, because none of it's been released, period. Exactly. Do you know how to shelter yourself against any kind of events? No, because you don't have those quantum verbiage availability to do that yet. There's nothing based off of anything that you have that could say you know what you're talking about, because you don't, period.
Right. So Bank of America, Chase Bank, are they considered tier 1 banks or tier 1 redemption centers? Is that potentially where I would go? As I bank with Bank of America, would I go to a Bank of America? They call me in. I'm supposed to be there, 10 minutes before the appointment, 20 minutes before the appointment? How does that work?
So when you get your appointments on, your appointment's going to be very specific to you and how you actually go into it, right? It's not going to be at the bank itself. It's going to be an actual center somewhere that is set up specifically for your transactions to take place. Even if it was, say, where it was a big office building, it may even be that where it's like multi-levels, 4 or 5 stories potentially, where the bottom floor is a BOA. It could potentially be that way, but you're not going to go in that way. You're not going to go into the Bank of America. You're not going to deal with the people that are in the bank. You're going to be dealing with the actual financial advisors that are part of the whole revaluation. They may have a floor where they keep people separated. You go into your area, you go into your room, you take care of it. Once you're done, they escort you out the back door to your vehicle and bye, sayonara. Nobody sees you. Nobody knows what you were there for. People don't understand what it's like to be dealing with a tier one finance. When you go out for a tier one finance, or you do tier one finance money, 6, 10, 12 figures, whenever you go into a bank, you don't go into the bank and talk to the bank manager. No, they have a whole nother people that come take care of you, and you don't even deal with anybody within the bank. They don't know why you're there. They're not ever gonna know why you're there. And so you could actually walk out the door with the same briefcase you walked in on, and no one's gonna know whether or not it's empty, full, or anything of the wiser, because you are completely isolated and separated on what your transactions are from anyone else that is there, period.
Okay, let's just say for argument's sake, I got 500,000 dinars, Iraqi dinars. And I was told that when you go in, they're going to give you a rate of potentially like $4.50. And you're supposed to ask for the special rate. Say, can I have, you're supposed to ask exactly this way, according to Lion, can I have the special rate? Or I would like the special rate. And the special rate could be anywhere between $14 to $17 per dinar. My question, I guess, is that real that you're supposed to ask for a special rate because they're going to try to lowball you, but you're allowed to ask in the right way? I would like to have the special rate, and then they'll give you between 14 and 17. Let me know.
So my understanding is that the tier one, the tier four Bs or whatever, they are already in on that specific rate, and they're knowing what they're going in on because of their groups that they're associated with, so on and so forth. If you're not associated with any of that, doesn't matter. That's where, if you're a part of, and we've talked to the person that's actually responsible for the email list, the actual people, okay? And that they're the ones that are responsible for every person that has actually been assigned to an email, and the validation of those emails and when they're going to go out. Okay. And so basically, you don't have to be associated with anybody or any of those groups. And if that's the case, then you're still going to get that same opportunity to go in there. That is the person that is supposed to say, can I have this special rate? All they can say is no. But that's not the probability of them saying, because when you ask for it, then you're aware of it. And that point, they're supposed to give it to you. That's the keys to the thing.
Yeah. Okay, so you go in, you cash in your $500,000 dinars. They're worth $14, $17 each, what have you. Ask for a special rate, they give it to you. Do they pay you in rainbow currency, that's digital rainbow currency, or do they pay you in another digital currency that could be like XLM or XDC or even XRP?
So from my understanding is that you already have a quantum financial account that's assigned to each of us that's operating in the fiat system right now. And so basically it's a part of plugging you into it when you show up and getting you access to that availability of the quantum system. And then at that point, your account will be funded to whatever level that it is from that transaction, whatever it may be. Okay. And at that point, it's based upon the quantum financial backing, which is the XRP, gold backed, and you can do whatever you want with it after the fact. But it's funded. All your 1 zeros are all there, and you'll be able to see exactly what you're funded at. And you can do whatever you want with it at that point.
Are they going to put it in an actual account, or will they give it to you on a hardware wallet?
So from my understanding, it's going to be on the actual QFS itself, that you will have accessibility to it through your quantum device that is biometrically set up directly to you individually. So nobody else can have access to your money or your finances, or even the to be able to view what your financial situation is. I have heard different things where people say, I got this card and it's attached to me, and I've got this, flash drive and blah, blah, blah. I think all of that is a part of, embellishment of the system, because it's about the simplicity of the system. The system is not difficult in the way that it operates. That whole quantum realm is something that works in a manner that is spiritual into the physical, and people can't understand the realities of the way that operates at this time. But it's almost to the point where it's going to be so easy, I'll be able to think about the things that I want to happen, and they begin to happen that way. And that's where people have a hard time grasping the concept of thought actually being the operational, programmable part of attachment to me, to my system, and the way that it functions.
Interesting. Okay, one last question, then we're going to say goodbye to the audience. You get called in at some point through the process as you're going through the different stations of the redemption center, if you will. One point, you're cashing in your dinars, your Zims, your whatever, and they're giving you whatever money in digital form of some kind to your account. And then you go to another stage where they're going to give you an actual Q phone and a Q computer, a quantum computer, correct? Is the Q phone, in your opinion, the Tesla phone?
No, it is not the Tesla phone. The Tesla phone is a phone that will be a operating programmable system, but it is not the actual Q phone itself. That is a part of the QFS. Completely wipe that out of your mind. That is not a part of the system itself. It is a part of the new technologies that are coming forward that are part of Starlink and everything else. But as part of the actual financial QFS, it is not the actual Q phone itself. And Q is not Q as in the 17th letter and everything that we talk about. Q is the quantum phone and the quantum device. So I want to explain that to people. And it operates in a trinary language, not binary like our computers that to do today. And it operates through pulses of light. It is a completely different animal. I mean, it is completely different animal.
Have you seen the inner workings of this phone at all?
I have not seen the inner workings of the phone. I have heard specifically about the phone, but I have actually seen the inner workings of the potential quantum laptops that are going to be issued out to the public.
And they're going to be given to us free of charge. Am I correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
And this is light years ahead of your top of the line Mac, whatever, etc.
There's not a supercomputer that is a part of this world that could actually operate at the ability of that quantum device has the probabilities to. It's just like back in the 60s when they said, NASA was doing all of their fraudulent stuff, so to speak, right? Well, those computers of those days used to take up, entire rooms, big giant rooms, right?
Yeah.
This little device right here is 100 times more powerful than what they had then. Well, this device is 100 times more powerful than the supercomputers that we have today. That is the kind of level of processing power that the quantum has. Most people have, like, say, if you were to take a supercomputer, program it into, say, a mouse outside of a huge city, like, say, New York, and that it could do, 50 million routes for that one mice in, say, a minute, all into different routes, right? Well, that's a supercomputer could do that, not your average computer. Now, a quantum computer could do 50 million mice all at the same time in 1 second. They're not even in the same reality.
Interesting. PolySign is a company that is being funded by Ripple. And I believe every bank in the world is going to have no choice but to, if you want to become a financial service center, you're either going to operate on PolySign or you're going to be out of business. There's no third option on the table. This PolySign thing, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's probably already programmed into the low-lying satellites. When you do get your new phone, which is your quantum phone and your quantum computers, it is already lodged or logged into the quantum computers upstairs, orbiting in low satellite, etc. Am I correct on that?
So yes, your system is already tracking everything that is being done in your behalf, that anything that you have financial ties to, whether it's your 401k, whether it's your stocks, whether it's your savings account, whether it's your Roth, whatever it is basically paralleling everything that's happening to it. And so
Right.
when the corrupt bankers were basically skimming money out of different places, that's how they got caught over the last 2 years, because the QFS was running side by side along with the banking systems and was logging every single penny that was traveling from anywhere, all simultaneously at the same time. And so when we can say that you don't have to worry about the banks because the banks are not going to be able to steal your money, you don't have to worry about the financial houses stealing your money. Why? Because initially it may be all taken away from you through the process of bringing down the corruption, but in that process it's been backstopped to show every single dime that was stolen from you through this corrupt banking system, and that it's all accredited back to you through the QFS. And so that's why it's like, if you have that kind of understanding of the financial system that's really actually there, you wouldn't have any concerns whatsoever with where your money's at, what it's doing, and know that it's protected, because the good guys actually have had this parallel to it for almost 2 years fully.
Well, they're running the systems side by side, and I can tell you this for an absolute certainty. I have people that go through my broker, which, by the way, they can get you as much XRP, XLM, XDC as you want, unlimited. That's already been proven. If you have less than $10,000, please do not contact me. I will avoid the email. If you want to go for $10,000 and you only got 2,000, get 4 other people that got 2,000 each. Pull your money together, then contact me and I'll make it happen for you. But anyway, I've seen people literally wire their money in, Captain Kyle, and the money is like there in a second. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen people wire their money in and it takes 2 days. Makes no sense, except are the systems running parallel? I believe so. What do you think?
Yeah, they are. And they have been for almost 2 years now. If you go back and you look at all of the Barclays and the Credit Suisse and all of the Bank of America's, Wells Fargo, all of these top executives from the tier 1 side that are elite, they're above everybody. And they've all been caught for money laundering. They've been caught for, embezzling and so on and so forth over the last 2 years, that they've never, ever, ever been caught, ever. And why? Because the QFS is monitoring every dime, every penny.
Final question. Cabal versus Jasara and 17. What is the score?
99 to nothing. I mean, in reality, there's been some, difficulties along the way, but as far as it goes, that's kind of the way that the mindset of the people have to go through this process, right? But as far as losing the war's already over, people. We've already won it. And excuse me, if you understand how quantum works and how the law of attraction works and how the universal basic laws actually work, when you perceive something When you ask for something, stop continually asking, because that is ask and then you're asking again like it didn't happen. Ask, let it go, and move on, and be in an acceptance state for that to come back to you. That is what faith is. That is what the transitional process of knowing that whenever I bring something into my sights and I begin to focus on something, yes, that is a process on manifesting it. But did I receive it? I'm not going to receive it when I keep on doing the same thing over and over again for the same thing. Because now what am I doing? I'm focusing on the asking for in my lack, and I'm focusing on all of the things that are stressing me out, like my bills and the how am I going to pay my car note? How am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay that? If you would just begin to put all that aside and not allow that to be your drain, and know that when you ask, receive, and then begin to focus on the things that bring joy, gratitude to your heart, and change who you are as a person. And you start to walk in that. You walk in that manifestation of, I am a receiver. I receive what I've put out. Um, then in time, it has no other option than to be attracted back to what you've been focused on. And so focus yourself on not those negative things. Don't be a negative Nancy. Be that person that is always looking for all of the positive in everything. Always know that when you have something that you can input into somebody, do it. Don't put yourself in a position to where you're always looking at the difficulties in life. That's why it's so much a part of, like, turn the news off, turn all the negative things out of your life, just tune them off and watch how much things change really quickly. Those things are not for you. Those are for the people so that they can wake up to, because they're the ones still asleep. If you just begin to focus on those things that are important to you, like your family, your wife, your business, or whatever it is, focus on it in a positive of what your expectation of it is, of good and great things for it, and then be in a receiving type mode for it, and your life is going to change completely.
Captain Kyle, I don't know why you and I don't do more of these more often. We have the canning ability to be able to capture lightning in a bottle, you and I. This was
That's
a great
awesome.
interview. Thank you for coming. Guys, I always close saying the same thing. We're still in a war. You are the digital soldier. You have a responsibility. This war is going to be won with you on the battlefield doing your job. The algorithms don't mean a darn thing, because there's more of us than there is of them. And thank goodness that the CEO of YouTube has resigned. So let's see what's in store for us in YouTube. I think good things are coming. Thank you for coming. I'm going to hold you over for a couple minutes. Guys, get this out everywhere. Do it now. Thank you.